We are
Oh,
live.
how are we doing today,
Adam,
gang?
it's so great to be back on Substack Live with you.
Yeah.
The topic, we're tackling like a really big topic today,
Yes.
and it's about agriculture stories for the other 99%. What do we mean when we say the other 99%, Adam?
Everybody that doesn't farm. There's only about 1% of the population that does. Maybe a little bit more, but a very small few of us. And it seems like a lot more than that are interested. So we're trying to get some visibility for all of us. I counted the number of ag publications, farm, garden, ag, anything with dirt. Just the ones that I'm subscribed to is 33. And
Wow.
it seems like I find another one almost every day. I find more. So how many
Well, let's
how
get
many
to
don't
that
I
in
know
just a
about?
second. I want to make sure that we're actually laying the groundwork. I feel
Yes,
like this
yes,
podcast is going to be filled with puns.
yes, probably.
Yes, which is great, right?
Hmm.
But one thing I want to basically expand on what you just said. Those who are working in agriculture in America, and this applies to other countries as well, but I just know American ag best.
Right.
We have 1% of our population producing food, fiber, and fuel, or in the food processing portion of that. So I would say we are an endangered species.
I'd agree with that.
And it's kind of scary when you think about it and the implications of that. That's what I write about all the time, is the food security aspect of this. And what do you think when you hear that? And also, can you share, where does that statistic come from? 1% of Americans are participating in our agricultural economy, so to speak.
I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. It's just something I've heard for probably my whole farming career. It's a stat that gets thrown around a lot. Um, what does it mean? It means that, yeah, there only might be 1% of us, but it also means that we get overlooked, we get forgotten. It's easy to make us the scapegoat for a lot of these problems when most of us are just out here trying to do our jobs and trying to survive and trying to farm again next year. And it feels like we take a lot of heat for a lot of things, and it's easy to do that because we're so unknown, because we're so hidden from mainstream.
And maybe because our stories don't get out enough.
Maybe, yeah, it's a good part of it.
So I'll say real quick that 1% statistic, it comes from the agricultural census that we have.
Sure.
And technically it's something like, it fluctuates between like 1.4 and 1.8%. But to me, that's tiny technicality. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because we're looking at like, okay, is it closer to 2%? Oh,
Either way.
big deal, right? Yes, either
Right.
way, it's such a
Yeah.
tiny minority. And like you're saying, those stories, those lives become almost invisible to a broader audience.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that is something that you talk about a lot.
I
There are these
do.
stories. There's the agricultural stories. Who is producing our food? How is it happening? You talk about that on your Substack. We talk about it here on these lives and our podcasts together, because people are hungry for these stories.
Yeah, they are.
What are
Absolutely.
you finding? What are you seeing?
I'm finding an appetite for it. I'm finding a lot of people willing to help. Just this morning, well, not this morning, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, this guy goes by Trave. I'm not sure, but anyway, he saw what we were doing, trying to raise awareness, trying to get an agriculture category, just a place where people can find us on Substack. And I've been beating this drum for months. I think October I started, and I try to do it with, I don't know. I try to make people laugh. I try to be a little bit silly about it and just point out that I don't know how hard can it be to make one more category on Substack. But anyway, 5 months of this, and I've been pretty vocal about it, and so have a lot of other people. This Trave actually started a petition and sent it around, and the guy doesn't even farm, has nothing to do with farming, but he was moved by what we're doing, and he's interested. So he started a petition and sent it around, and I think he's got I think it was 27 signatures this morning. So a classroom full. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people post new notes. Substack notes is like the Twitter for those who don't know. But I see a lot of people posting notes, trying to get the attention of the higher ups, the Hamish McKenzie's, the Chris Best, the people that run Substack, just to try to plead our case. And for 5 months, it's gone completely ignored. Completely. Not one comment, not one response, nothing. And I don't know. I don't know
Well,
if
I
I'm more
want to back up a
baffled,
little bit
frustrated.
here.
Sure.
Adam, I want to back up and make sure that we're bringing our audience along on what's happening.
Yeah.
So just to start at the basic level, Substack is a publishing platform. And you're on there. Your Substack is called
Farming full time.
And mine is on there, and it's called Raw Milk Mama. We both write about agriculture issues from different perspectives, but it's focused on agriculture. Now, in the Substack platform, when we sign up as writers, when anybody signs up as writers, they have to choose what big overarching category their publication is about. And we get choices like technology, culture, politics, sports, food and drink, but none of them fit us because
Right.
we're literally writing about agriculture, how food is produced, what is happening with our food systems. And so with Substack as a platform, it's a useful platform, right? We can publish, we can
Yeah.
do these wonderful videos. So it is a
Yeah.
useful platform. But what you started, you're asking, number one, give us a category that actually says what we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And then also let other people find us
Yes.
based on that category. So I wanted to make sure to cover that
Yeah,
basic
that helps.
101. So
That
anybody
helps a
who's
lot.
not familiar with the platform can understand exactly what it is that we're actually asking.
Right.
And we're actually
Right.
saying
Yeah.
what's needed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, look, we just have a comment in from another writer that they left South Arkansas Reckoning left the platform for these same reasons.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about it, but I like it here. I've met a lot of great people here. I mean, you and I met on Substack. I mean, I've met farmers from all over the world. I never expected any of that. I just wanted to write about farming in the beginning. I never had any idea this was going to happen, but it's crazy the connections you make here, and that's what makes it hard. I don't want to leave. I love Substack. It's great. There's some of the best writing on the internet here, and I think this is where a lot of news in the future is going to be. Like magazines are dying, newspapers are dying. This is where it's at. But and yeah, part of it's probably selfish reasons. Like I want my writing noticed. I want more people to see it. Of course, I'd be lying if I didn't admit that. But it's bigger than that. Like I've learned a lot from so many other writers on here that it's a disservice to not put us out there, to not show the world what we're doing, what we're about. There's so many misconceptions about agriculture and farmers, and I don't know. It's just, and of course, there's magazines, there's farm magazines that there's the farmer, there's successful farming, there's all these magazines, but I think they're just written like for farmers. It's not. It doesn't tell the other 99% what's really happening out here. Sure, it covers business, and there's nothing wrong with those, but I think it's about I think getting the stories out, like the real people's stories, to show people what it's actually like out here, to give them a taste of that, just might clear up a lot of these misconceptions that people have about us. So I think it's very important to have some visibility, a
Yeah, and it's not
place.
just about those misconceptions, right? Because in my circles, Adam, you are farming full time. You are a farmer. That is
Yeah,
your
yeah,
profession. That's what you do multiple hours every day, probably like
yeah,
way more than full time. And
yeah.
that for people like me in my circles, I'm in the suburbs, right? So
Hmm.
I'm surrounded by people who are starving to learn more about agriculture.
Yeah,
What's going on? What is happening? How is our food being produced? How can we participate in that? who is doing the production, who is doing the processing. There's this real hunger for that knowledge. And then those who want to participate, we need to learn. Like,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and also, like you said, we're always learning. You're learning from other farmers. And you've highlighted many of those publications where you get to learn about some of the native trees and the benefits of them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it really and truly is about, one, providing that information to those who are seeking it, and being part of a community where this information is readily available.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes, I mean, I want to put a caveat in here, because I know, yes, we all have the internet. We can all Google it. But sometimes people don't even know what questions to ask. And so having this information put in front of you, fed to you by trustworthy voices, like one of those things about Substack is people can find the writers and the voices that resonate with them and that they trust and that they can learn from, and keep up to date. Like the Substack subscription model, that's literally what it's for, that you can subscribe and then get all of that publication's newsletters.
Right.
So that's how we are serving the other 99%, those who are not in production.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Yeah, and I talk about the misconceptions because it feels like we've always gotten shit on as farmers. Like you hear all these people saying we're using too many chemicals, we're doing everything wrong, we're monocropping, even though any farmer who doesn't rotate isn't going to be in business long. Like there's no monocropping. Sure, there's a lot of areas of the country where it's just corn, soybeans, corn, soybeans, corn, soybeans, and that's not what we do up here. We have 15 different crop options that we rotate through. So that's not everywhere, but what you hear in the mainstream is that that's all it is. We're a bunch of simpletons in bib overalls who come to town once in a while, you know, that farmer that comes to town. And if we drive a new pickup, oh heavens to Betsy, people just flip out like, well, oh, the farmers have this, the farmers have that. Can I tell a story?
Yes, of
I
course.
was at the Sugar Beet Institute, the beet show we call it, at the Fargo Dome a few weeks ago, and there was a panel of 4 80-plus-year-old guys who have been farming sugar beets since 1951. Most of them was when they started. And one guy was up there and he told a story about he was spraying back in the 50s or 60s with his tractor. And I don't remember what the chemical was that he was spraying, but a rabbit actually jumped underneath his sprayer boom where the chemical was coming on. And he said that rabbit hopped 3 more times after that and then dropped dead. Seriously. This was back in the 50s now, keep in mind. But that's how things used to be, right? It's nothing like that now. We've improved so much. We're not out there just blasting the fields with chemicals. We don't waste everything. It's not economical to put extra out. I mean, there's some guys that use maybe a little too much fertilizer who still think more is better, which it's not. It's about balance, but most of us are trying to do things better. We're trying to farm smarter. We're not wasting. But I get where people are skeptical about it. They should be skeptical. I mean, because it's our food, you know. People should be skeptical about it, but the point of all this is it's a lot better than it once was, and we're getting better every year. I mean, I don't even think half of what we're spraying really even gets close to the food, to be honest with you. I can't prove that. I'm not a scientist. I don't know for sure, but I know I've taken a bath in Roundup when I was 23, not purposefully, not something I did for fun, but the hose blew up and Adam was covered in Roundup. And here I am 20 years later, I'm still alive. I don't have cancer yet. I mean, yeah, cancer rates are higher in my part of the world, and maybe the chemicals are part of that. I don't know, but the point is it's not the full story. We're doing better, we're using less, we're wasting less. It's not economical to do that. So it's not just about complaining. It's just about people who never see what we actually go through, what we're actually doing out here. Yeah, it's just about those people. It's about those people pointing the fingers, but they don't really know what's happening. And I think that's why this is so important. Like, we want the truth to get out there. You know, we want I don't know, agriculture deserves more than a bumper sticker, you know? Like, we need the real stories out there so people know what it's really like, you know? That's there. I'll get off my soapbox for a minute now.
Well, I think it's an important soapbox, and coming at it from a different angle, you're right. We get fragments of stories
Yeah.
and fragments of what's happening. And so you get I'm going to generalize here. You get the suburban moms hand wringing about what chemicals are in their food while their children are playing in fields that have been sprayed with that or worse.
Yeah.
And, or their own yards, right?
Right.
So, yes. So, where I'm coming from, like, awareness is huge.
Mm-hmm.
What is going into our food and onto the fields that are producing our food? But also, like, we cannot be targeting just the farmers in this conversation, because
Right.
this routine use of herbicides in our lawns, on our lawns, is pervasive. And we've got to address it both at once. Like, I don't think it's fair to just tell the farmers, you have to stop using these chemicals, you have to stop using the fertilizer, without looking at the bigger picture of it's happening on our soccer fields, on our lawns,
Yeah. Yeah.
where we're going for recreation. We got to address it all at once.
Yeah. It's
So
everywhere.
yeah, these stories are key. They're essential, Adam, because it's almost as if there's this cultural conversation, like you said, to scapegoat our farmers.
Yeah. Because it's easy.
It is, yeah.
We're not seen. It's easy to point your finger at the guy that you never see.
And that's why these stories are important, and being able to find each other is key. The
Right.
99% being able to find the 1%, the 1% being able to find each other and amplify what we're doing and what we're advocating for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you started this campaign, shall we say, to get these higher ups at Substack to recognize that agriculture is a category that people really want.
They
You've
do.
had some,
Yeah.
I'm going to read some of your recent notes because you said you like to be humorous about it. And I
I
know
try to be.
they're funny. And like, you can, how to put it, attract more people with the humor.
Yeah.
So you wrote a few days ago, and this is satire, right? This is not true. It's satire.
Right. Yeah.
You wrote, breaking, Substack editorial board votes to add Rainbow Road as a category before farming. Sources at Substack confirmed today that after a heated 3-hour debate over whether Toad or Yoshi had the best acceleration curve in Mario Kart 64, the team ultimately decided that agriculture still ranks below optimal banana peel placement strategies on Wario Stadium. We just don't see how soil health fits in with our vision for pop culture, said one committee member, while sipping a $14 turmeric latte and live blogging the Barbie sequel. A leaked memo revealed that farmers have not sufficiently proven they're part of the algorithmic narrative arc of civilization, and suggested they try writing more about brunch. The final decision, Substack will instead roll out a new category next month called Podcasts About Starting Podcasts About Podcasts. Still no farming category, but don't worry, movies and TV got its 6th subtab. So, Adam, tell it a little bit about why, like why that
Well,
note, what's going on with that.
Substack sends out these emails and like updates about the app, about the platform, and every time I get one that says we've got new categories, I think, is this the day? Is this the day? And I open it up and I see video games. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's an appetite for video games. Well, that's where the Mario Kart stuff came from. Like, just mocking that all these other things are so important, or like a artisan bread recipe, or it's just all. I guess it's all stuff that I'm not looking for, but maybe some people are. But there's also people looking for us too. That I don't know. I'm just trying to get visibility to it. I mean, like I said, people don't see what we do out here. Like, just how dangerous the job is. Like,
Yeah.
I've I've lost fingernails. I've burned my arm. I've smashed my thumb flatter than my iPhone. I mean, look at this thing. It's a stump. It's useless. I can't even. I mean, just my dad almost lost his foot in a combine when he was 7. Like, just it's so dangerous. I know people have been crushed by cultivators, sucked into grain bins. Like, it's just a very, very dangerous life. And then to have somebody shit all over you and tell you you're doing a bad job or you're using too much of this or too much of that, it pisses me off. That was the reason I started this, to be honest. Just to Not just to get people to read my writing, but just to show people like, hey, you don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
So get off our backs, man. Like, sorry, I
Yeah.
get a little
Well,
aggravated about this.
I think part of that, Adam, and this is what I'm picking up from it, but tell me if I'm wrong or if you see it differently. Part of it is that we have, can I say, saturation of content that only shows more of an idyllic farming scene.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's been turned into this, if you're this kind of farmer and you're farming this way, you're the good guy. And we want to emulate this and model that. And if you're not, you're the bad farmers and you need to
Yeah.
change and you're part of the problem. And I think it's really, really disingenuous. This is what I'm where I'm coming from. Agriculture in general is 1% of the population. Then you take, I don't know, a handful of farmers that are doing things one way and you hyper idolize them as this is the way, this is the way,
Right. Right.
without looking at the circumstances surrounding both how they're able to do what they're doing, who all it's feeding, versus the other farmers who are doing things in a different way and who those farmers are feeding. So it's almost like we've been, our conversations around this, our cultural perceptions of farming have been perverted by these extreme idealistic views of things. I don't know. I'm struggling to articulate this, but what am I seeing? How do you see it?
Yeah, well, everybody's got their perfect way. Farming should be this. Farming should be organic, or maybe it should be regenerative or sustainable, or you know, everybody has this vision of in their head of what it's supposed to be, and there is no textbook for it. I mean, I think I told you last week or maybe the week before that this is every year is an experiment for us, and we get on average we get 25 to 30 tries to get it right, and it's trying something new every year. Hopefully, you're trying something new every year. If you're not, it's in my opinion, you're not growing as a farmer. But to say that there is one specific way that anybody should farm is just it's foolish. Like every piece of ground, just in my little area, every piece of ground is different. Every farm is different all across the country. Whether you're growing radishes in a garden or you're growing 50,000 acres of corn, whatever it is, there's no one way to do this. And I think we've just closed off we just become closed off and we get so stuck in this is the way it should be. And in my opinion, there is no way that it should be. We should all learn from each other and find what's best for not only us, but what's best for the collective, everybody. And what that is, I don't know. But we're not gonna figure that out by sitting pointing fingers and yelling at each other, saying my way is better than your way. I mean, that's nonsense, isn't it?
I don't know if it's nonsense. It can definitely lead to some enriching conversations if people approach it with curiosity.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
But I think that curiosity leads to potentially different outcomes than judginess.
yeah. So I'll ask you, why do you think Why do you think do you think this is an oversight? Why do you think we don't have an agriculture category? Or why have we been ignored? Or why does it feel like we're being ignored? Do you have any? What's your take?
That is
Curious.
such a good question. And also, look, Trave just joined us. And Trave, if
Oh,
you
hey.
were listening, we talked about you and your post earlier, and I've actually got that to read, Adam, your response to his in a little bit. So stick with us. Okay, so the question you asked is, why do I think that we're being literally ignored by Substack, whether it's intentional and oversight? Adam, it's a great question. I can only speculate. There's such farmers are so invisible in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Completely taken for granted. And it's asking people who don't think about it, why don't you think about it?
Yeah.
And it's not even, it's nowhere on their radar. And how unfortunate is that? How incredibly unfortunate is that? And I think that I'm in a bit of a bubble because this is my work, my life, working with farmers, growing my own food in my own yard, studying permaculture. Because it is my work in my life, I'm in a bubble where I talk about this all the time. And I talk to other people who are talking about this and doing this work. But when I step outside of that bubble, it's not even a blip on most people's radar.
Right.
They don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They're not asking questions. And most of the time, they don't know the questions to ask. And I'm not putting blame there. I'm saying it's part of that big cultural problem that we've become so separated from nature, from our food, from production, from each other, right?
Yeah.
If we were more connected to each other, we'd be having these conversations a little bit more. So they are ignoring us, but I don't think it's necessarily deliberate. It's just not
on their radar.
Not even on their radar.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're doing is essential. And I'm going to read 2 more of your notes because I want people to understand this, like that we actually can use this platform to make a splash and maybe put this on people's radar.
Right.
And you wrote, agriculture feeds the world. Well, Substack frets about becoming the next TikTok. We're the ones who grow your Cheerios, your bananas, your bacon. The 1% feeding the 99%. The invisible backbone behind every meal. And yet, agriculture isn't even a category. Not here, not in the media, not in the algorithm. This isn't just about digital labels. It's about being seen. It's about acknowledging the hands that feed you. It's about rural economies collapsing while the platforms profiting from our stories pretend we don't exist. These are the first breadcrumbs, the trails leading back to the farmers who never stopped feeding you, even when you forgot we existed. So let's talk about agriculture. Let's talk about why it matters. Let's talk about why it deserves more than silence.
Yeah. Let's.
Yeah. I feel the weight of that.
Yeah.
And then so this other Substacker, Trave, he picked up on that. And he started a petition, like a little petition. And this is about being seen.
100%.
Combining our voices to make it louder. And your plea for Substack to build an agricultural category, you've attracted home gardeners, commodity farmers, regenerative farmers, farmers like Helen Freeman in the UK. We interact with her a lot on there. We have a lot of overlapping stories and content, shall I say, or topics. And this is essential. So I've got one more, and this is what you wrote in response to Trave for doing that. You said, Trave, you didn't have to do this, but you did. And you did it with grace, guts, and a steady hand. Today, you're the farmer because you planted something real, and we're all going to help it grow. This thing is bigger than a category now. It's a movement. And thanks to Trave, it's got roots. If you haven't signed this petition, here's your chance to join the classroom. This is about more than food. It's about recognition. It's about respect. It's about roots. Agriculture matters. Let's keep building.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I woke up and Trave had this long post like, what blows me away about it is he's not a farmer. He's got nothing to do with agriculture. And that I see so much of that. Just as important as connecting with all these ag writers, I see just as many, if not more, who comment and say, I don't farm, but I'd love to see a category. I'd love to know more about it. And I see that, I said, just probably more than I see other ag writers talking about this. There's definitely an appetite for it. I say this all the time. The guy that gave me the Gabe Brown book at a dinner party, the guy works construction. He's a hunter, so he has some food plots, and I think that's how he got into it. But a guy schooling me on soil health, it blows me away that there's an appetite for this among the general population. So I have another question for you. So you've done a lot of grassroots stuff, right? Like you were on Ron Paul's campaign in '08 was when he ran, right?
'07. Mm-hmm.
'07, yeah. So what have you seen that works to make a big change? How do we turn Trave's 27 petition signers into 270, 2,700? How do we do that? Do you know?
Wow, that's a really tough question, Adam, because one of the answers to that is everything's changing all the time so
Yeah,
fast. So what
yeah,
worked yesterday doesn't necessarily work today.
sure, yeah.
And at the same time, I'm going to go in two different directions here that contradict each other, and they're both true. The more we can highlight each other and talk about this important topic to all of us and circle around to it, the more we can bring attention to it and attract others who care about this and want to do the same thing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very likely that many of these voices will get suppressed. And whether it's completely unintentional through biases in the algorithm, or whether it's intentional, what do we call it? It's the censorship, shadow banning. Shadow banning.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to say, but it's really happening. So, can we counter the shadow banning and the subtle censorship with amplification of each other's voices? I think yes, I think we can. I think we can also use targeted words in order to make those more popular in the algorithm. And then the algorithm hopefully will begin to pick up on that. But again, like, I want to say that first of all, I'm pretty opposed to AI. I don't like it. I'm biased
Mm-hmm.
against it. Second of all, it's changing so fast, and it's changing how we interact and how things happen so fast that
Mm-hmm.
it's almost impossible
Yeah. And
to
it's
make
just
those
beginning.
adjustments. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But here we are, Adam. And we found each other through your posts on this topic.
Right. Yeah.
So we got to keep using our voices and saying these things
Yeah.
and finding and connecting with the people who are also saying these things,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately.
Yeah. And I
But
think you're right. Yeah. It's I don't say taking advantage of that algorithm and not using it against itself, but kind of using it against itself in a way, or for us, if we all keep pounding this drum, and you're right, probably using the same keywords. I don't know how the algorithm works. I'm still trying to figure it out, but what I do know is this: the faster you get engagement, as soon as a note goes out, the faster you get engagement. I think that's the most important thing. So the quicker it gets liked, shared, restacked, commented on, whatever it is. And then if those things all have a common theme, like something like agriculture matters, eventually it'll pick up on it. And just well, you and I talked about this Friday, and that's why I made some of these notes for this reason. And those notes got some really good coverage with exactly what I'm talking about. So I think if we all do it, we get together and do it, and it amplifies everything. It's a coiled spring, to use a
absolutely. And I love
yeah.
that. I love building community and having that community
Yeah.
be the voice.
Yeah,
So I hear you. And yeah, agriculture
yeah.
matters. I think that can be a rallying cry right there.
It is. Yeah, yeah, because it does matter. I mean, it matters to anybody who eats, which is most of us, I think. I know. Yeah, yeah, and it matters so much right now. Like rural communities just getting hollowed out, and now what can we address the elephant in the room? Tariffs. I mean, the whole farm economy is on a precipice right now, and if these tariffs hold, everything stops. Global trade stops, and the way we've been doing things is done. I mean, tariffs hit farmers the hardest. Like, and we were already in a bad spot, and if this holds, I think commodity prices are going to go down the toilet even further. So then what's going to happen? We already can't compete with South America. We're already on our way to being number two, and with the tariffs, we're on our way to number God knows what 25 because we're not going to have anybody to sell it to. The market is destroyed.
Adam, can you back up though? And I have
Sure.
questions about that as a non-farmer. I'm not in that
Yeah. Let's
looking at
hear.
that,
Yeah.
those numbers. Can you explain that a little bit more? So I think we've
Well,
all heard this big tariff thing. We all know
yeah.
peripherally what's going on with that, but you said it's hitting farmers the hardest and commodity prices are bottoming out. So walk us through that for people who don't understand how commodity pricing works at all.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through the one, two, three of how commodity prices are set, why exports matter to commodity farmers, and what these tariffs are doing to those exports.
Well, markets are just set by buyers and sellers. I mean, it's all based on supply and demand ultimately. And in America, we're an export-driven industry. I mean, the stuff we produce gets shipped around the world. Our wheat gets bought all over the place. Same with soybeans, same with corn. But when you put tariffs on everything, it makes all of a sudden all these products are that much more expensive. When if you just compare Brazilian soybeans to U.S. soybeans, Brazilian soybeans are already cheaper on the global market. So if I'm China and I'm looking to buy soybeans, I'm going to go to Brazil. It's already cheaper. And now with whatever it is, 25, 30, the number doesn't matter. If there's a tariff, that stuff, our products just got more expensive on the global scale. And whether it's right or wrong, maybe it'll work out in the end, but we're the ones who feel the brunt of that first. When it's a tax on our products that we're trying to sell to the world. And when you jack the price up by via tariffs, there's no market. It means all of a sudden now we have a really big surplus. If we're just going to get rid of our corn and soybeans to just Americans, we better find some other uses for it. Otherwise, we're going to be out of business. But then you know what happens? They'll come out with a bailout or a cash payment for farmers and say, "Oh, you guys are the rock. We care about you. Even though we threw you under the bus 5 months ago, here's a payment to shut us up." And then what happens? Everybody hates the farmer because now they're on welfare. They're getting government handouts in the eyes of people. So we get crapped on again. In the meantime, we're not writing any of these policies. We're just absorbing the damage. We're bullet sponges in this trade war. We didn't even start. We just take hit after hit so people can keep eating. And we're not villains. We're not freeloaders. We're caught in the crossfire of a failed trade policy. I haven't. Maybe it hasn't failed yet. Maybe there's something I don't see. Maybe there's an end game to this that benefits everybody. I don't see it personally, but clearly the market doesn't care much for it. The stock market has just had its worst 2-day rout almost in history. I think maybe 2008 was as bad, but and commodity markets have been going down for 3 years because there's a glut. Every time prices go up, we're incentivized to produce more, right? We've gotten so good at producing more, too good, that we flood the market and it crashes the price. Again, basic supply and demand. You got too much of something, the price goes down.
I
So,
would argue that
it,
it's a systemic failure, not just a trade policy failure.
how so? Go
Well,
on.
like you just said, you guys, farmers have gotten so good at production.
Yeah,
Some people like to call that efficiency. I argue with that term. But you've
sure.
gotten so good at it that you produce so much
Yeah.
that we can't possibly literally consume it all.
Right.
And so, of course, prices have to drop because that is the correct, even in a messed up system, it's still the correct response to overproduction.
Yeah.
So it's part of this larger system that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did it
Agreed with
ever?
you.
I'm not going to touch that right now, but it does not work now.
Right.
So we talk, and basically on every conversation we've had, we've talked about the get big or get out policy
Mm-hmm.
of Earl Butz in the 70s. And for those who are not aware of that, Earl Butz was the Secretary of Agriculture, and he promoted a policy called Get Big or Get Out. And that was encouraging farmers to produce more, buy more land, produce more on that land, thinner margins, or get out of farming. Sell to
Fence
your
row to fence row.
right.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, it's not the crux of the problem. It's not the origin of the problem. It really escalated the problem.
Yeah.
Those policies, it escalated that whole system of efficiency over value, efficiency over diversity. And it's just a screwed up system
It
that
is. Yeah.
we're all having to live in and try to manage with different approaches and very few solutions at our fingertips.
Yeah. That's the hard part. What do we do? I mean, you keep growing or you keep going, put another crop in the ground, and we've made it through a lot of these before, a lot of crises like this, and well, some don't make it out, and I think there's going to be a few that don't make it through this one if the policy continues. Who knows? Maybe the whole thing shifted while we were talking. Maybe this was all lifted and everything is hunky dory outside. I don't know. I mean, things change that fast. How do you keep up? And how do you know what to do? And I think I've said this a few times too, that this is the shift where I think the ones that survive, if you want to be a smaller farmer and survive, I think we're going to have to find ways to focus on quality over quantity. It's not going to be about producing the most bushels anymore. It's about,
Yeah.
maybe it's direct to consumer markets. Maybe it's a contract with a big food processor, producer, whatever, who want a specific ingredient out of wheat, for example. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know what it is, but I don't see the bigger farmers going away. I actually see that picking up through this, because those are the ones with the capital who are going to be able to scoop up the crumbs from this mess. But which is kind of depressing. I mean, the small farmer is only going to get smaller, and it's going to get tougher for guys like me to get into farming. Guys that want to do this for a living. We're boxed out of the industry essentially, but yeah, I think the ones that survive are going to be the ones that get creative. They get more efficient, less inputs, and more quality over quantity. Because on the quantity game, we're not going to compete with that unless you are a massive, massive producer.
Well, can I throw another word into that mix?
Sure.
Diversity.
Yeah, diversity. Exactly.
When you have a diversity of crops or revenue streams, because it's about the crops, it's about what gets planted and harvested, but maybe it's also about selling Christmas trees at Christmas time, or doing farm tours, or and I'm thinking only of geographically land-based revenue streams. I'm not counting writing and other off-farm jobs, so to speak. But that diversification of farms can help with different revenue streams and also offset some of the crises. Like, for example, one farm that I'm really close with, they grow a huge diversity of grains and vegetables. And one season they planted all the vegetables, all the things that get planted in that season. And we just had huge storms. It flooded. And they also grow rice. And guess what? The flooding did not damage the rice. So even though they lost so many crops for that season, their diversity still allowed them to have a crop that they could sell.
Right.
So when we start looking at the complexities that you're talking about with the commodity prices and too much production of certain commodities or surplus because of other factors,
Mm-hmm.
then can that diversity help? And how difficult or easy is it for farmers to adapt and have more diversity within a single year?
Yeah, I mean, we try to diversify just on our farm, but it's a little bit different from what you're talking about. I mean, it's the same, but it's different. But we're all trying to find different crops we can grow right now that actually project a profit because there really aren't any. I mean, I've had calls for oats in the past week, and guys are talking to me about growing corn that never grow corn. It's just how can we make a buck? Basically, is what we're doing, and that's what we chase. It's not just about flooding the market with corn and soybeans. We're trying to find a way to make a dollar to survive, and we do that by diversification. That's why I know some guys up here who grow 8, 9, 10 different crops in a year, and that's tough to do when you're on a larger scale. It requires a lot of equipment, a lot of switching, a lot of patience, and not everybody's prepared to do that. Some guys are 58, 60 years old, and they're just like limping at home a couple more years. Like, well, we'll just do the same thing. We'll do the easy thing. But yeah, the point is diversification is what will get you through this. And then to further on that, uh, I suppose it depends on where you are. Not all of us can just start a farmer's market because we're in rural areas where there isn't a major metro in 2 hours from us. So how do you do that out here? I don't know, but people are creative, man. They'll figure it out. I mean, we're not just a bunch of hillbillies in coveralls. We're pretty smart, and we keep going. We yeah,
Indeed.
yeah,
And if anybody wants a testament to the intelligence of farmers, read their writing. Look,
yeah,
read
yeah.
what they're writing. And I will take this opportunity to pitch Farming Full Time, your Substack, because you write incredibly well about the stories on the front lines. You write about what it's like to uh, deal with some of these changes and the losses, the incredible
Yeah,
losses
yeah.
because of the systemic failures that we've all seen and witnessed for the past, I don't know, 200
Er,
years, 50
yeah.
years, pick your time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But if anybody wants to hear a solid, steady agriculture voice, go check out Adam's Substack because you do a great job telling those stories.
Thank you. Always nice to hear your compliments. And I never know what to say. I'm not the biggest self promoter in the world, but I appreciate the hell out of it. I really do. Yeah, but yeah, the truth is, I mean, farmers they're thinkers. We get stuff done. I mean, it might look a little different everywhere you go, but we're innovators. We A lot of the stuff we take for granted, and I don't have an example right now, but a lot of stuff it comes from agriculture. A lot of technology we have started on the farm. Of course, I can't think of an example right now, but there's stuff. um, but yeah, it just goes back to agriculture matters. It matters. It
Agriculture
does, and
matters.
it matters. It matters to more than just farmers, and we don't need pity. We just need a platform. A place for where we can all be heard.
And Adam, I'm about to tell a story, and I don't know exactly how this fits in, but also you paid me a huge compliment on my writing. You called me a policy bulldog.
You are.
And I was like, wow, that's a great term for it because I geek out over mostly food policy. I want to differentiate between in agriculture, we have food, fiber, and fuel.
Mm-hmm.
My focus is food. But I love it. I geek out over it. And this story comes to mind as you're talking. And it's a story from way long ago, late 1700s, early 1800s, when America was predominantly in, I shouldn't say predominantly, one of our major cash crops was cotton,
Mm-hmm.
which is, of course, not a food, it's a fiber.
Right.
But it was the export. It was what we were exporting to England and to Europe. And because of that, uh, so many different ways to go in that direction. But yes, that was a lot of the slave labor was focused on the cotton fields. And when Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, an invention because of agriculture, right? Originally, it was to help alleviate some of that labor for the slaves. But what ended up happening was more production and
Yeah.
more processing and getting those cotton seeds out faster. So we're exporting all this cotton, but what's happening to the cotton seeds? And I think if we look at this story, and I'm going to finish the story, it's the beginning of so much destruction and so much horrible policy. We have all these cotton seeds. It's a waste product from agriculture. What do we do with it? And at the time, Procter and Gamble was a young company, and it was two brothers-in-law. They'd married two sisters, and they were a candle maker and a soap maker, and they combined. And candles and soap both needed an oil, a fat. And so they hired a chemist. They used all of that waste product, the cotton seeds. They bought that waste from the cotton farms, and they figured out how to press those seeds and turn it into this oil. And they hired a chemist to make that oil more solid at room temperature, because otherwise you just have this liquid oil. And I guess that wasn't ideal for candles and soaps at the time. But remember, this was when candles, every household had candles all the time because that was their after hours lighting. So they created this fat they could use in these products. But then along came Edison with the light bulb. What do you think happened to the candle industry? It
Yeah.
tanked. But there's still all of this waste product from the cotton seeds. And they're still trying to figure out, like, what do we do with this? So they took that same oil that they were using for candles and soap. And by the way, let me add a little anecdote here. Cotton seeds have a toxin in them that causes heart attacks.
Really?
Yes, it's a hard word. Otherwise, I would say it. It's like glyphosate or something. It's a hard word.
Sure.
Um, and toxic to people. So they hire another chemist to, I don't know, neutralize that toxin or something. But did it actually work? I would argue no. And then they took that fat from the cotton seeds, they stuck it in a can, they put fancy labeling on it, and they sold it as a health food. Do you know what this product is?
I don't know.
Crisco, crystallized
Are you
cotton
kidding me?
oil. I'm not kidding.
Really?
But that was not in and of itself enough to sell this product. So what they did was they hired the top marketing firm of the time and published a book called A Calendar of Dinners with a woman's byline. And it had 635 recipes in it. All of them with Crisco.
Crisco.
But before the recipes started, it was 30 pages of 100% literal propaganda.
Yeah. Wow.
They surveyed the American housewives. Okay, listen, when you're writing, when you're doing marketing, it is so important to take the language from your audience and reflect it back to them. So they survey all of these American housewives. What is it you need? What is it you want? What are you longing for, right? And then they incorporated all that language into this 30 pages of the cookbook. Health, better digestion, fluffier cakes, fluffier pies, ease, less expensive. So they're using all these words and all these fears and what the American housewife is striving for in this book. Like, there was no actual truth to it.
Yeah.
They're like, it's easier to digest. Oh, really? Huh. Okay, it's a health food. It's going to make your girls skinnier and healthier.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Like, no basis in truth. But they took that cookbook and they took segments of it, translated it into different languages for the different immigrant communities, and shipped that out to the millions of housewives, millions of households in America.
Unreal.
Unreal, right? So this started the market for a completely fake food that was based on an agricultural commodity waste product. And they turned it into a profitable product. So sales skyrocketed, but it did not actually stop there. Like, this is the kicker for me. Then Procter and Gamble, you know that whole soap opera thing? They're
Mm-hmm.
called soap operas because the soap companies sponsored them.
Sure, I've heard that before. Yeah.
And so Procter and Gamble, they were sponsoring some of these radio spots, and the radio program was giving a grant out based on the funding from Procter and Gamble, and it went to the American Heart Association. And it was something like the equivalent of $42 million today. So not chump change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know? A couple seasons later, the American Heart Association publishes that animal fats will kill you. They're going to cause you heart attacks and disease. But
Yeah.
this other product that's not animal fats. So then, where Crisco had been having modest gains, whoosh, exponentially higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people don't like that word propaganda. It's kind of triggering for some people, but
Yeah.
it's literally what this was. It was
Oh yeah.
lies made up to sell a product that was otherwise likely not sellable.
Right.
It was a waste
Waste
product.
product.
So I tell that story because I think it weaves into everything you're talking about with suppressing the farmers' voices,
Mm-hmm.
with creating this false system
To
of
make a buck.
commodities and pricing and sales. Anyway, I think it's relevant. I think it's important for us to note that some of these decisions come from waste products, commodities like that, and this falsification of information for basic consumers.
Yeah. Hey, this is good for you. Well, yeah. Huh. See, I learned something every day. I've never heard that before. I'm just blown away by it. I don't even know how to respond, but man, I'm not surprised at all.
I
Like
know
that's
we're at that point.
yeah, yeah. And now it's gone so far that everything is for sale. Everything is for sale. Even the power plays at my son's hockey games have a sponsor. Not only the power plays, but the penalty kills have a sponsor. The puck goes out of play, they have a sponsor. Every damn thing is for sale. It's all about profit, profit, profit. Exactly what you're talking about.
And yet, the very people who are feeding us are
Aren't making a profit. We're not
and
getting
are
shit.
losing so much. And then it
Yeah,
becomes all
yeah,
about land pricing and selling
yeah,
land. And then
yeah,
what?
yeah.
We have this
It's not
downward
just
spiral.
it's not just about losing money. You're right. It's about losing land and losing community and losing neighbors and losing family. And that deserves a platform. Again, I'll come back to it. Like these people need to be heard. And how many people would how many would-be writers are out there? Everybody on the farm has a story. Every single farmer has stories. Some of the best stories you're ever going to hear. And maybe if more of us, maybe it's more commonplace for people like us to get on and write on Substack, and there's a category where they can be found. Who knows what kind of writer will spawn from that? There's probably a ton of good writers that never even thought about it, but with a platform, there might be. I mean, yeah, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I can't wrap my head around how long this has gone ignored. But I have a feeling we'll get there at some point. I'm not going to put a timeline on it, but eventually they'll come around. They'll see it. And I'm not saying like you said, it's not. I don't think it's malicious or they're trying to bury us for any reason. It's just we're that unknown. And I think we need to get loud about it to make that change.
Yeah, because as you point out, it's a part of everybody's daily life. Agriculture
Everybody.
is there. It's a part of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
You ate a meal yesterday or today, it's a part of your life.
Yeah. If you eat, agriculture matters. It
Or wear
matters that.
clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything.
Or drive a car.
Yeah. Everything we have. So many of the luxuries we have that we just take for granted. Yeah. Yeah. But it's good. I think we're done being quiet.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
time to make some noise and amplify
Yeah.
that noise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
any final thoughts or anything you want to say to everybody out there who cares about this topic, wants to see it more widely heard and seen?
Yeah, if you're not on Substack, check out. Well, obviously you're on Substack because you're watching us right now. You have to do it on the app, but I mean, make a note, reach out. Agriculture matters. Just something as simple as that. Tell Substack you want a category. Just do the little at symbol and Substack, and you can tag them, and it goes to them. Somebody sees it. If enough of us talk, it the message will get through to them, and maybe we won't be an oversight anymore. I mean, a lot of us get paid to do this from some of our readers. They pay to subscribe to us, and Substack takes a cut of that. I believe it's 10%, right? So I mean,
Yes,
they're profiting off of us. Pay us back, man. Like, come on. I don't know what else to say about it, but read Farming Full Time. Read Raw Milk Mama. Make your own Substack. Tell your stories. There's my plea, because I know there's a ton of good stories out there. The people out here, some of the best who ever lived, man. Like, they deserve a voice. They really do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to end on a lighter note, um, when we start our publication, we have to pick a category.
Yes.
And so I think originally I picked health and wellness as my
Hmm.
category because I talk a lot about food as a healing mechanism and how to stay well with food. And food's so important to our health and wellness. But then I realized that most in the health and wellness category are literal doctors or in the medical industry. I'm like, that does not fit for me. And I switched
Right.
to food and drink, but I'm not talking about food and drink except in the context of agriculture. And of course, I do talk about raw milk quite a bit and cheese
Hmm.
because who can live without that? But it's not my primary thing. It's not like I'm a restaurant critic, for example.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit. But what do you choose? And like, how much relief would it be if we could actually choose agriculture?
It would be great. I mean, I might have started under food and drink too, because that initially felt like the closest thing, but it wasn't. And then, I try to make people laugh. So then I was under humor for a while. I might still be under humor. I can't remember if my top, there's two of them. There's like a main and then I don't know why there's a second one, but so either my top one is humor, and I think the other one is philosophy because I don't know.
Yeah.
I always try, every time I tell a story, I try to find some sort of meaning in it or connect it to something. So that feels like philosophy to me. So that's probably my main topic right now, if I remember right. But I haven't looked at it in a while. But yeah, it would sure be nice if it was agriculture or farming, or I'd even take rural America, something, because there's a lot of good rural America voices that aren't exactly farming, but those people deserve to be heard too, because like I said, our communities are being hollowed out, and it's not just northern Minnesota, it's the entire Midwest. I mean, take a road trip across South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska. It's depressing. It really is, like, just dead towns as far as the eye can see. And I'm not saying we're going to bring that back, but at least let us talk about it. Give us a place to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackie actually, she has a comment here. Should we all just make sure we hijack the same one? I think it means the same topic. So everybody writing
Oh yeah.
about who's writing about agriculture, and yeah, also not all in America, right? So our
Right. Yeah.
across
Absolutely.
the pond or Australia, everywhere else that we've connected with people in agriculture, if we all are under food and drink or something, and
Yeah.
then we start like
Take
overhauling
over.
that with agricultural conversations and growing food and producing it. So
That's a good
that's a
idea.
great
We should
idea.
we should work out a plan for that. I'd be game for something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Adam, any final thoughts? We're at the hour mark here.
I don't think so. I think I covered everything other than, yeah. I just encourage other people to tell their story, and yeah, I think we do need to get together. all of us that talk about this and make Substack notes about this, we should work together, figure out a phrase, maybe just a common theme that we can all rally around. Maybe agriculture matters. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but
Agriculture matters. I think it's
something,
it's
something.
settled, Adam. Agriculture matters, and
There it
we'll
is.
both be
Yeah,
posting about this in the coming days. So keep an eye
yeah,
on that and
yeah.
see
And
how you.
I'll when we share this, we should put that petition up that Trave did too. When we
Yes,
send
yeah,
this out as a email to our subscribers, we'll do that and sign that bugger too. Why not?
yeah.
Let's make them hear us. Let's get loud.
Thank you, Trave. Trave just says this was an amazing talk. Thank you, thank you.
And thank you, Trave. I appreciate
And
you.
tune back in next time. We plan to do this regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't
Awesome.
wait. I'm excited.
And for all those not on the Substack platform yet, not following our writing, I will include links to both Adam's and my publications. So please do subscribe and follow us there. And yeah, we'll keep updating.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate everybody joining us and all the support for this and the people pushing for this. It's really great to see. Like
Yeah.
never expected this when I posted a dumb note back in October to try bring some attention to this, you know. So this is
And
it's really moving. It's great.
My friend Rooster here, he says Henry Ford called it agricultural innovation when he started the museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
Love it. It's good stuff.
All right, Adam. Until next time. It's Farming Full Time, and I am Raw Milk Mama on Substack, and we'll bring you another exciting topic next time.
Radio.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.